When I say the one who starts late has to run twice as fast, I'm not talking about competition with others. I'm talking about competition with time. Time is the one resource that doesn't negotiate. You can't plead with it, you can't buy more of it, and you can't pause it while you figure things out. Time moves, whether you do or not. And every day that passes without purpose is a day you'll have to make up later, with double the effort and double the focus. Now, starting late doesn't always mean starting at age 40 or 50. Sometimes you can be 25 and still be late, late to discipline, late to clarity, late to responsibility. It's not about the clock on the wall, it's about the calendar of your decisions. The truth is, most people waste years waiting for perfect conditions, waiting for inspiration, waiting for the right time. But the right time is a myth. The only right time is the moment you wake up and say enough. That's the day your life changes. That's the day you stop running from time and start running with it. The cost of delay isn't just measured in lost opportunity. It's measured in lost potential. When you delay, you're not just postponing an action, you're postponing growth. You're freezing your development while the world keeps moving. And what happens? The gap widens. Every year you wait, the mountain grows taller. The market shifts, the skills evolve, the energy you once had begins to fade. And by the time you finally decide to move, you realize you're not starting from zero. You're starting from behind. Jim Rohn used to say, discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. That's not just a clever phrase. It's a truth written in every story of lost opportunity. The ounce of discipline it takes to get started today is far lighter than the ton of regret you'll carry tomorrow. Discipline in its simplest form is the decision to act while others hesitate. And the people who master it early in life create a momentum that compounds. Those who delay have to create that same momentum, but uphill. Let's be honest, sometimes life gets in the way. You get distracted, discouraged, or delayed by circumstances beyond your control. That's understandable. But here's what's not acceptable: staying there. Staying stuck in the mindset of, I'll start when things calm down, because things never calm down. Life is designed to test your urgency, to challenge your priorities, to see how serious you are about the things you claim you want. And if you wait for calm, you'll wait forever. Starting late can feel discouraging. You look around and see people ahead of you, more successful, more established, more experienced. It's easy to think you've missed your chance. But here's the truth: late is only late if you stay there. If you start now, if you run with conviction, you'll be surprised how quickly progress compounds. Because while others may have time, you have something far more valuable: urgency. Urgency sharpens your focus, intensifies your effort, and eliminates distractions. You stop wasting energy on the trivial and start moving decisively toward what matters. Every late start is really a disguised invitation, an invitation to wake up, to realize that the window doesn't stay open forever, and that the time to build, learn, and grow is now. When you understand this, every hour becomes precious. You begin to treat time not as something to pass, but as something to invest. And that shift from passive waiting to active investing is what separates those who live with regret from those who live with purpose. Philosophically speaking, delay is a form of self-deception. We tell ourselves we're waiting for the right moment, but what we're really doing is protecting ourselves from discomfort. We're afraid to fail, afraid to start small, afraid to look foolish. But if you can break through that illusion, if you can face the discomfort and act anyway, you've already taken back control of time. Because the moment you begin, the clock stops working against you and starts working for you. The irony is, the later you start, the more powerful your commitment must be, but also, the more meaningful your results become. Late starters often appreciate the value of time more deeply. They've seen what's lost when it's wasted. They understand that each day counts. That's why they can achieve in 5 years what others don't achieve in 20. When your back is against the wall, when the window is smaller, your drive becomes sharper. That's not a disadvantage, that's an edge. So don't blame it a late start, use it. Let it ignite a sense of urgency so fierce that you make up for every wasted moment. Recognize that the race isn't over. It's just your turn to run. And if you must run twice as fast, then run twice as fast. Because once you start moving with purpose, time begins to bend in your favor. The hours you once lost become lessons. The setbacks become fuel. And the journey, though shorter, becomes richer. You may have started late, but you can still finish strong. The secret is simple: start now and don't stop. There's a word I've used all my life when it comes to success: discipline. Not excitement, not motivation, not luck. Discipline. Because discipline is what keeps you going when the mood is gone. Motivation is the spark that gets you started, but discipline is the engine that carries you across the distance. And when you start late, when the clock is already running, you can't afford to wait for feelings. You must master what I call urgent discipline, the kind that acts before you're ready, the kind that says, let's begin, even when you're unsure. Most people misunderstand urgency. They think urgency means panic, moving fast, rushing through life, trying to do everything at once. That's not urgency, that's chaos. True urgency is calm, deliberate, and focused. It's the quiet realization that time is valuable and that hesitation is expensive. It's not about running around anxiously. It's about walking directly toward your goals with intention and precision. When you start late, urgency becomes your ally. It tells you there's no more time to waste, no more time for second guessing. The one who starts late must double his consistency and halve his excuses. He must take the energy he used for complaining and redirect it into creating. You can't change the past, but you can multiply the present. And that's what urgent discipline does. It multiplies your time through consistent, intentional action. Jim Rohn often said, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Think about that for a moment. A few simple disciplines. Not hundreds, not complicated strategies, just simple, repeatable actions done daily. The problem isn't that people don't know what to do, it's that they don't do it long enough or consistently enough to see results. The person who starts late doesn't have the luxury of inconsistency. Every skipped day compounds the delay. Every broken routine widens the gap. That's why urgent discipline is not optional. It's survival. You see, discipline has a rhythm to it. It's the art of doing small things with big purpose. Reading a chapter when you'd rather scroll your phone. Making the call when you'd rather postpone it. Saving when you'd rather spend. These are small acts, but they create massive leverage over time. Most people underestimate how powerful daily discipline is because it looks ordinary. There's nothing glamorous about it. But if you do the ordinary things consistently, they produce extraordinary results. Let me tell you something. Discipline is not punishment, it's a declaration of intent. It's saying, I value my future more than my comfort. The person who starts late doesn't have time to negotiate with comfort. Comfort has already taken enough from you. Urgent discipline means you stop treating your dreams as something you'll get to someday, and start treating them as something you must do today. Now, some will say, but I don't feel ready. Let me tell you, no one feels ready. Readiness is a myth. You don't become ready before you start, you become ready by starting. Waiting to feel ready is the fastest way to waste years. The disciplined person moves despite uncertainty. He knows progress doesn't require perfection. It only requires motion. And every day you act, you build credibility with yourself. You start to trust your own word again. That's what discipline really does. It rebuilds your self-respect. There's also a psychological power in urgent discipline. It transforms how you see yourself. Instead of thinking, I'm behind, you start thinking, I'm catching up. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, you feel empowered. Because discipline gives you control, and control gives you confidence. When you do what you said you would do, even when it's hard, you stop living at the mercy of circumstance. You start leading your life instead of reacting to it. And here's something most people miss. Discipline is contagious. Once you start applying it in one area, it spreads to others. You wake up early and suddenly your day feels different. You handle your finances better and suddenly your relationships improve. You get in shape and suddenly your mind becomes sharper. Urgent discipline creates a ripple effect that touches everything it encounters. But let's be clear, urgent discipline isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters most. It's about prioritizing the vital few over the trivial many. It's not about working 20 hours a day. It's about making the 8 hours you have count. The one who starts late can't afford to waste energy on what doesn't move the needle. Every action must serve a purpose. Every choice must align with a goal. I've met people who, after years of delay, finally decide to get serious. And in a few short years, they transform everything. Not because they found a secret formula, but because they finally found urgency. They realized time was no longer something to spend. It was something to invest. They stopped asking, how long will it take? And started asking, how far can I go if I start now? That question changes everything. Urgent discipline isn't glamorous, but it's liberating. It frees you from the endless cycle of waiting, wishing, and wondering. It demands action, now, today, this hour. Because the truth is, the clock won't stop for you. You can't bargain with it, but you can match its pace. You can decide that every minute from this point on belongs to purpose, not hesitation. And when you do, when you practice that kind of urgent, focused discipline, you'll discover something profound. The person who starts late but moves with urgency often overtakes the one who started early but coasted. The latecomer becomes the finisher. The hesitant one becomes the leader. So if you've been waiting for the right moment, this is it. Don't wait another day for permission, motivation, or certainty. Start with what you have where you are right now. Because discipline, once begun, does not ask how late you are. It only asks how fast you're willing to grow. And that's the power of urgent discipline. It turns lost time into forward motion. It doesn't matter when you begin. It only matters that you begin now. When you start late, the first thing you realize is that the pace of ordinary won't get you extraordinary results. You can't walk when time is running. You must learn to run, and not recklessly, but intelligently. This is what I call the double speed mindset. It's the philosophy that if you begin behind, you don't just move faster. You move smarter, sharper, and more focused. Because catching up isn't just about speed, it's about precision. When Jim Rohn said, "You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight," he was teaching a principle that defines the double speed mindset. It's not about chaos or burnout. It's about clarity and acceleration. Once you understand where you are and where you want to go, every action becomes amplified. Every minute starts to matter. You stop moving randomly and start moving purposefully. That's how you double your speed without doubling your stress. Starting late means you don't have the advantage of time, but you do have the advantage of urgency. That urgency sharpens your awareness. It forces you to eliminate distractions that others still entertain. You don't have time for gossip, comparison, or wasted motion. Every step must count. Every decision must serve a direction. The double speed mindset is about compressing wasted years into meaningful days. You replace idle hours with intentional work, and you trade comfort for focus. Now, doubling your speed doesn't mean doubling your hours. It means doubling your effectiveness. Working harder without direction is just exhaustion in disguise. Working smarter means using time as an ally, not an enemy. Learn faster. That means reading more, listening more, surrounding yourself with people who know more. Execute quicker. That means applying ideas immediately instead of storing them for later. Reflect deeper. That means learning from every mistake, not repeating it twice. Late starters often think they're disadvantaged, but I'll tell you, they have a hidden strength. They've already seen what doesn't work. They've felt the cost of delay, the sting of wasted time, and the frustration of stagnation. That awareness gives them an edge. It makes them hungry. When you start late, you don't play for practice. You play to win. You don't take opportunities for granted. You treat them as sacred. That hunger fuels the double speed mindset. Here's something most people miss: speed is not just physical, it's a mental. The mind determines your pace. Some people move slowly because they think slowly. They overanalyze, they hesitate, they second guess. Others move fast because they decide quickly. They trust their preparation and they act on it. The double speed mindset is built on decisiveness, not recklessness, decisiveness. The quicker you decide, the quicker you learn, and the quicker you grow. Jim Rohn used to say, "Don't let learning lead to knowledge. Let learning lead to action." That's the essence of working smarter. If you start late, you can't afford to only collect ideas, you must execute them. You can't just read about success, you must practice it daily. Too many people spend years preparing to start. The double speed mindset says, start now. Learn while moving. Because momentum is a better teacher than theory. You see, the double speed mindset is not about competing with others. It's about redeeming time. It's about taking back the years that delay tried to steal from you. You do that through intensity. Focused, intentional, disciplined intensity. When you work, you give your full attention. When you rest completely. You stop living in the gray zone of half effort, because half effort creates full regret. There's also a philosophical beauty to this mindset. The faster you move with purpose, the slower life seems to go. You experience more, learn more, become more, because you're fully present in the process. The paradox of double speed living is that when you give everything to each moment, time begins to expand for you. Others rush and lose themselves in distraction, but you move swiftly with direction. That's mastery. And let's talk about resilience. Because running twice as fast means you'll stumble twice as often. That's natural. But every stumble is a signal, not a sentence. When you move at double speed, you don't fear mistakes. You expect them and you use them. Each failure becomes a data point, each setback a sharpening stone. You learn to adapt faster, recover faster, and rise faster. That adaptability becomes your greatest competitive advantage. In a world obsessed with ease, the double speed mindset feels radical. It says, I'm willing to outwork my past. I'm willing to outgrow my excuses. It's not about perfection, it's about pursuit. When you work twice as hard on yourself as you do on your job, your skills, your habits, your mindset, you begin to compress decades into years. You stop waiting for luck because you're manufacturing momentum. Let me put it simply, working smarter means strategy. Working harder means stamina. The one who starts late needs both. Strategy without effort is theory. Effort without strategy is chaos. But when you combine the two, intensity with intelligence, you create acceleration. You start achieving in months what once took years. And the beauty of acceleration is that it compounds. The faster you move, the more opportunities appear. Speed attracts momentum, momentum attracts success. Remember, the race isn't to the one who started early. It's to the one who refuses to slow down. You may have fewer years, but you can have more of life in your years. You can compress a lifetime of growth into a decade of effort if you live with clarity and conviction. So if you started late, don't mourn the lost time, multiply the present. Run with urgency, learn with hunger, act with precision. Because the double speed mindset doesn't just help you catch up, it helps you rise above. And when you run twice as fast with purpose, the finish line doesn't seem far away at all. Regret is a powerful emotion. It has the potential to break you, or it can become the greatest source of energy you'll ever have. Every one of us, at some point, looks back and wishes we had started sooner, learned earlier, acted faster, believed more. But here's the truth: regret doesn't have to be a chain around your neck. It can be a spark under your feet. The difference lies in how you use it. Jim Rohn often said, "We all must suffer one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. There's no escaping pain, only choosing the kind that leads somewhere." Regret is heavy because it's full of what ifs and onlys. It's the mind replaying missed chances and wasted time. But the moment you stop merely feeling regret and start using it, it transforms from an anchor into a source of fuel. It becomes the reminder that time is precious, that opportunity doesn't wait, and that the future doesn't have to look like the past. Most people let regret paralyze them. They get stuck in analysis, guilt, and nostalgia. They replay the movie of their mistakes until they can't see a way forward. But successful people do something different. They press pause, extract the lesson, and then get back to work. They treat regret like a teacher, not a jailer. The late start becomes their classroom. Every missed moment becomes motivation. You see, regret has a strange kind of clarity in it. When you've lost time, you understand its value more deeply than those who've always had it. You stop taking minutes for granted. You realize that a single day used well can undo years of idleness. That's why people who have tasted regret can become the most focused, the most disciplined, the most determined individuals alive. They've seen what life looks like when you waste your potential, and they refuse to live it again. Turning regret into fuel begins with ownership. You can't use what you don't own. You can't heal what you keep blaming on others. The moment you stop saying, "It's their fault," and start saying, "It's my responsibility," you take your power back. Regret only controls those who avoid responsibility. But when you look it in the eye and say, "Yes, I made mistakes," but that's not where the story ends, it loses its grip. You stop being defined by the chapters behind you and start writing the ones ahead. Psychologically, regret becomes productive when it moves from emotion to insight. Emotion keeps you stuck, insight sets you free. Instead of asking, "Why did I waste so much time?" ask, "What can I learn from how I spent it?" Instead of mourning lost opportunities, study why you missed them. Hesitation, fear, lack of preparation, and then build systems to prevent it from happening again. That's how you transform emotional weight into forward momentum. Philosophically, regret is the evidence of awareness. It means you've grown enough to recognize what you could have done better. And that recognition, if embraced, becomes wisdom. Jim Rohn would often remind people that the same wind blows on us all. The difference is in how we set the sail. Regret is just the wind of reflection. It can blow you backward, or it can propel you forward if you adjust your direction. The person who starts late often carries a heavier bag of regret, but that bag can be turned into ballast, weight that steadies your ship, not sinks it. Use that weight. Let it remind you how easily time slips away when you're not paying attention. Let it drive you to focus harder, learn faster, and love deeper. People who've lost time often live with more urgency because they understand the value of what remains. They see that what's left can still be extraordinary if they choose to make it so. There's a moment that comes to everyone who's lived with regret. A moment when you realize that you can't change the past, but you can redeem it. Redemption doesn't mean rewriting history. It means writing a better ending. It means saying, "Maybe I started late, but I will finish strong." That mindset changes everything. It gives you permission to move forward without denying what's behind you. Some of the greatest stories ever told are redemption stories. People who failed, fell, and yet refused to quit. They didn't let their past become a life sentence. They turned it into a life lesson. Every great comeback begins with an honest conversation with regret. Yes, I wasted time. Yes, I missed chances. But that's not the end of me. That's the beginning of my awakening. That's the moment you stop being a victim of your past and start becoming the architect of your future. So don't run from your regret. Listen to it. Let it whisper reminders, not accusations. Let it tell you, time is limited, so use it. Let it be the force that keeps you awake when others are asleep, the reason you act while others hesitate. Let it push you to build something worthy of the time you have left. Because once regret becomes fuel, it stops burning you and starts driving you. And remember this, the people who've known regret often end up living with more gratitude. They don't take opportunities lightly. They don't waste conversations. They don't delay their dreams. They've learned that every sunrise is a second chance, and they run toward it. You can't undo the time you lost, but you can make the time ahead unforgettable. You can't erase regret, but you can outgrow it. So let regret do its job, let it remind you what matters, and then get moving. Because the best way to silence regret is to build a life that makes it irrelevant. There's a beautiful truth about success that Jim Rohn often taught. Small disciplines, done consistently over time, create massive results. It's what we now call the S compound effect. And for the one who starts late, this principle is not just helpful, it's everything. Because the person who starts late doesn't have time to waste on random effort. They must rely on the exponential power of consistency. When every action is intentional and every day builds upon the last, progress multiplies. The late starter's greatest asset is focus. When you begin behind, you don't have the luxury of distraction. You can't dabble, you must dedicate. You can't afford to be casual about your habits, your routines, or your priorities. Every hour has to mean something. And that's not a burden, that's a blessing. Because when you focus your energy instead of scattering it, your progress compounds faster than you think possible. People often underestimate how powerful consistent effort really is. They imagine success as one big leap, a sudden moment of breakthrough, a single event that changes everything. But that's not how life works. Success grows in silence. It's built through daily choices, small disciplines repeated long after the excitement has faded. Those little habits, reading 15 minutes a day, exercising for 30, saving a small amount, practicing a new skill, seem insignificant in isolation. But when compounded over time, they reshape your entire destiny. Now, here's the truth the late starter must understand. The compound effect doesn't care when you begin. It only cares that you begin and continue. The magic is not in the start. It's in the persistence. You can start late and still outgrow those who started early if you're consistent and intentional. Most people start strong and fade. The late starter doesn't have that option. They must build momentum and protect it like their life depends on it. Because in a way, it does. Think of it like this: momentum is the great equalizer. Once you build it, it erases time. The same way a snowball gathers speed and mass as it rolls downhill, your habits gather strength the longer you maintain them. In the beginning, it feels slow, painfully slow. You may feel like nothing's changing, like the world is moving faster than you can. But keep going, keep showing up. Because one day, the compounding effect of your discipline will surprise you. What once seemed impossible suddenly feels inevitable. Jim Rohn would say, the things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. That's the secret of the compound effect. It's simplicity. Reading a page, making a call, taking a step. These are all small actions, but skipping them is just as easy. The challenge is not in the difficulty of the task, it's in the discipline to repeat it. The late starter must build a fortress of habits that protect progress. Because once consistency takes root, effort becomes energy, and energy becomes excellence. Let's talk about psychology for a moment. The compound effect works because of how the human mind and body respond to repetition. Every time you repeat an action, you're not just performing a task, you're strengthening a pathway in your brain. Over time, those neural pathways become automatic. What once took willpower now becomes natural. That's how discipline turns into identity. The late starter who keeps showing up will eventually stop trying to be consistent. They'll simply be consistent. That's when momentum becomes unstoppable. Philosophically, this principle teaches something profound. Time respects effort. It may not reward you instantly, but it will always reward you eventually. Every day you stay disciplined, every small effort you make, they're all deposits into your future. Most people quit because they don't see immediate returns. But compounding doesn't show results at first. It's invisible growth, progress happening beneath the surface. Then one day, like a tree that's been growing quietly underground, your results break through the soil, and people call it overnight success. For the late starter, that invisibility can be discouraging. You might think, I'm putting in so much, but I'm not seeing enough. But remember, compounding takes time to reveal itself. The later you start, the more deliberate you must be about trusting the process. The early stages are about building systems, not getting applause. Your focus must shift from outcomes to consistency. Don't measure success by what you've achieved yet. Measure it by how well you're keeping your word to yourself. Now, let's be clear, the compound effect doesn't mean working harder forever. It means working smarter consistently. It means building leverage, systems, habits, routines. These are multipliers. They take what once required great effort and turn it into efficiency. For example, a habit of reading daily compounds into wisdom. Wisdom compounds into better decisions. Better decisions compound into better outcomes. Every action is a seed, and seeds, when tended, multiply. Jim Rohn used to remind his audiences, what's easy to do is easy not to do. The tragedy of delay isn't starting late, it's quitting early. The late starter's redemption is consistency. 10 minutes of focus every day is better than 10 hours once a month. Because the secret to compounding isn't magnitude, it's frequency. So if you feel behind, here's what to remember: consistency beats intensity. You don't have to sprint every day, you just have to show up. Over time, your small steps will start to look like giant leaps. And as your results compound, something beautiful happens. Confidence compounds too. You begin to trust the process, to believe in your own ability to follow through. And one day, you'll look back and realize that the distance between you and the ones who started early has vanished. You'll understand that success was never about who began first, but about who kept going longest. That's the power of the compound effect of late effort. It doesn't just close the gap, it erases it. Because in the end, time rewards the one who stays the course. Keep showing up, keep doing the small things with great consistency, and soon your late start will look like perfect timing. There comes a moment in every person's life when you realize that the waiting has to end. The waiting for inspiration, the waiting for permission, the waiting for the right circumstances, all of it. You wake up one day and understand that the time you've been waiting for has been right in front of you all along. That moment is called Dalda now. And once you truly grasp that, your life begins to change in ways that time can no longer control. Jim Rohn often said, for things to change, you have to change. For things to get better, you have to get better. That idea is simple, but it's revolutionary. It shifts the focus from circumstances to responsibility. Because if your future depends on change, and change depends on you, then your time starts the instant you decide to act. The late start doesn't define you, hesitation does. Once you decide that now is the only moment you'll accept, you move from being a passive observer of life to an active architect of it. The truth is, everyone gets a now. Some people recognize it early, others take longer to wake up. But it doesn't matter when the realization comes. It matters what you do when it arrives. Time is indifferent, but opportunity is personal. Opportunity doesn't care about your past, it cares about your readiness. The person who starts late but moves with conviction can achieve more in a few focused years than others do in a lifetime of drifting. Let's be honest. Many people never start because they're afraid. They think about what others might say, or they're haunted by the ghosts of past failures. They want guarantees before they act. But life offers no guarantees, only chances. And those chances belong to those who move. You can't steer a parked car. You can't change direction if you're not in motion. The courage to begin right now is the bridge between potential and power. When you start late, it's easy to get caught in the comparison trap, looking at those ahead and feeling you'll never catch up. But comparison is an illusion. You don't need to catch up to anyone. You need to wake up to your own journey. The moment you start comparing, you hand your power to someone else's timeline. The moment you start acting, you take it back. The only race worth running is the one against your own delay. Jim Rohn believed that time responds to clarity. Once you decide who you are and what you want, the universe seems to rearrange itself around that commitment. You start to see opportunities you once overlooked. You attract people who align with your vision. That's not magic, that's momentum. When you begin to act, life begins to move with you. But it all starts with one decision to start now. Philosophically speaking, no is the most powerful word in the language of achievement. It's the point where potential becomes reality. The past exists only as memory. The future exists only as imagination. The only thing real, the only thing alive, is this moment. When you understand that, procrastination becomes impossible because you see how sacred time really is. Every minute wasted is a minute of life you'll never get back. You don't need to be fully ready to begin. Readiness is a byproduct of motion. You'll never think your way into action, but you can act your way into clarity. The first step reveals the second. The commitment to start now opens doors you couldn't see when you were waiting. The person who starts moves into alignment with reality. The one who waits keeps arguing with it. Think about it. Everything great you've ever admired began with someone saying, let's start. Every business, every invention, every transformation, every comeback. The greatest success stories weren't written by those who had perfect timing. They were written by those who had perfect resolve. They looked at their circumstances and said, this is where I begin. And here's the paradox. The later you start, the more powerful no becomes. Because when time is shorter, attention becomes sharper. You stop wasting effort on what doesn't matter. You focus on the essential, on growth, mastery, impact. That's why some of the greatest breakthroughs in life happen in the second half of the journey. Urgency gives you purity. You move from wanting to doing, from talking to building, from hoping to living. There's something deeply spiritual about deciding to start now. It's an act of faith, not in luck, but in yourself. You're saying, I trust that what I do today matters. You're saying, I'm willing to meet life halfway. And life, in return, begins to respond. Doors open, not because they weren't there before, but because now you're finally walking toward them. The late starter who decides to begin today has an advantage that the early starter may not: perspective. You've lived enough to understand what's important. You've made enough mistakes to value wisdom. You've waited long enough to respect time. That combination, urgency, gratitude, and focus, is unstoppable. It's what turns a late beginning into a legendary ending. So don't wait for a better moment. This is the moment. Don't wait for more time. This is your time. Don't wait for certainty. It's built through movement. Take the first step, however small, and let it lead you forward. Because the only tragedy greater than starting late is never starting at all. The clock is still ticking, but this time, it's ticking for you. Start now. Run your race, and run it like you mean it.